Barry, welcome to Tallgrass Film Festival.
Well, thank you, John. It's good to be here.
And congratulations on the Ad Astra Award.
Well, thank you.
I did some research on it to see what they called it, and the words that hit me were stubbornly independent, visionary, exceptional, topical, and inspirational. And
well, that's pretty high praise.
Yeah, but it hits you. It fits.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things I like. You know, this bunch, they are proud of being independent.
Well, I'm proud of them for being independent. There's not enough independence now. We turned into a crowd of sheep.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about some of your other awards. I know the one you were most proud of was your Hall of Fame to the, let's see, the exact words is the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum.
Yeah, that's the Hall of Great Western Performers. The first guy in there was Tom Mix. Second guy in there was Gary Cooper.
Can't beat that.
So I'm in pretty good company.
Yes, you are.
It has Ronald Reagan in there, John Wayne, all the big guys,
and Alan Ladd, who was not necessarily one of the.
Well, no, he wasn't a big guy.
He wasn't tall, but he was big.
Yeah, he had a great voice.
Oh man, sort of like you. When you grew up in La Mesa, Texas, right?
I grew up in Lubbock. I was born in La Mesa.
Okay.
Yeah, we call it La Mesa out there.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's what I love about Texas.
Yeah.
You gotta ask a local to know what it's really pronounced.
Yeah. I was writing a series of sketches about a small town in Texas named capital L-A, capital L, small a, capital Jardin, which is La Jardin in Spanish. That means the garden. And it was supposed to be a place that had tumbleweeds, and that's about all that grew there. And it was kind of a satirical name for a town, but they called it Lardin.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, your first horses that you rode were on your grandfather's farm, right?
That's right.
And I know you grew to love them.
I grew up around horses. Some, not all the time. You know, I'd go there in the summer and spend part of the summer there. And
then of course you spent your days in the movie theaters watching westerns.
Oh yeah.
Who were some of your favorites?
Well, I really liked Bill Elliott. Wild Bill Elliott, his real name was Gordon Elliott, and he was a tennis player. And Ben Johnson was telling me this, a history of who he was. He was a tennis player, and Ben said he was very athletic, and he was his best student. Ben taught people how to look like they knew how to ride. And he said that Wild Bill he bought a cutting horse, and he was one of the first actors to get into cutting. So he was in it. He was in it pretty seriously.
You have to be to handle a cutting horse.
Yeah. Well, you don't handle them. You help them.
There you go.
Somebody asked Buster Welch, said, once you get the cut and get the cow out there, you just turn the horse loose, right? And he said, well, about 80% of the time. He said, the other 20%, you've got to know what to do, and you got to do it right now. You don't have time to think.
And then there's your love of acting. I understand you started in high school?
Seriously, in high school. I started earlier. You know, I was always kind of, when I was about 7 years old, I was watching those movies, and I kind of wanted to be the guy like Fuzzy Jones or Gabby Hayes or Cannonball, old Dub Taylor, those kind of fellas, because they didn't have to take a bath. The hero always had a clean shirt, and these guys, they could just go around and be funny.
Then they had the best one-liners.
Oh yeah.
Well, are we allowed to talk about the short from yesterday? I didn't get a chance to ask you before we started this. The Trail In.
We can mention it. I'm not supposed to promote it.
Well, I loved it.
It's not out. It's not out in public a whole lot.
I can see that. I loved it. Your performance was amazing.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Well, I've watched it twice now on my computer.
Wasn't that horse good?
Oh my God! And when he does that race with the other two horses, man, that was beautiful. Now I wasn't, and I thought he handled the fall in the creek really well.
Well, I didn't do that.
I figured there was somebody else on the horse at that moment.
Yeah, that was Sean. He was the guy that took care of the horse, and he doubled me in a couple of scenes, So
okay.
So I wouldn't get hurt.
Yeah. And the wedding ring sing. Oh man, I was just about crying on that one.
Yeah. That was a nice little bit there.
Your mannerisms, your actions, everything. You just executed the pain you were in.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You just had a masterful job.
It was I think Shannon Keenan did a great job in writing that thing. And I thought an old man had probably written it. I got the script and read it, and I thought I was going to see some old tobacco-chewing man. And this is a pretty young woman.
Yeah, I met her and her son yesterday.
Yeah. Well, they drove us over here today. She and her mother and Kane.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're nice people.
Okay, I understand you were in the Marines.
Yeah. For a short time. I was only in for a year and a half.
Well, Marines have a tendency to kind of stick with you a little bit.
Well, yeah, they say once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
Whenever I meet anybody, they say Semper Fi, and I say Semper Fi right back.
There you go.
And usually in November, I celebrate the birthday.
There you go. I know you've done a few Westerns. Which one was your favorite?
I think Conager.
Ooh.
Because I had to learn something new on that one. I had to learn to drive 6 horses on a stagecoach.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, they didn't have a place for a blind driver, so anytime you saw me driving that coach, it was me driving it. So
that's awesome. And that's that's a lot of work.
I had 2 days to learn how to do it. I got out there and the guy said, "You drive a 6-up, I guess." I said, "Well, I never have," but he said, "Well, you ride horses, so you know horses." I said, "I know horses, but that's like saying to a guy who rides a motorcycle that get in an 18-wheeler and turn it around."
I love that. And I know you were friends with Ben Johnson, right?
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I always loved about Ben was that if you ever watched his roles, he never cussed.
No.
You, on the other hand, have had some of your greatest lines are cussing.
Yeah.
War games, when the generals...
Ben didn't want to. He didn't want to cuss because his mother might see it. His mother outlived him, you know.
No, I didn't know that.
She was cooking his breakfast when he had his heart attack.
Oh man, I
He was
didn't
in
know
the
that.
bathroom shaving, and she went in, and I think his last words were, "I'm sorry, I can't help you."
Wow.
So she was trying to get him up, you know.
Wow. Well, that just derailed my next question, but I was going to talk about war games and working with Matthew Broderick,
Yeah.
because he's gone on and done a little bit since then.
Well, he was during that time. He gave a very remarkable performance for a young actor, but he was under great stress because his dad, James Broderick, was dying of cancer back in New York when we were shooting that movie.
I did not know.
And so whenever he had a little time off, he'd fly back to New York to spend time with his dad. Yeah, he passed away, I think, right maybe a few weeks after we finished the filming of the movie.
Wow. Wow, I did not know that. Wow. Well, then I also wanted to talk about Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
I loved, from the first time I saw Uncle Bob, I'm like, I like this man. And then when you started talking to him about, hanging in there, and that line about the cantaloupe patch.
Yeah. Well, I wrote that.
I saw that. When I was reading your bio, I went to your website and was reading your bio to see if I would miss anything. And I read that and went, now that sounds right.
And I sat down. All it said in the script was, pride's one of them 7 deadlies, you know. And Jim Bridges said, we need to expand that a little bit because that's Uncle Bob's last thing he says. So I said, well, he said, I know you write, so just write me something. So I sat down at the table there in Gillies and got a napkin and wrote that speech on it.
It's a great speech. It is a great speech. People watching the movie, that's where a lot of people caught you and went, oh my God, this guy, I got to watch him.
Well, it was that was a lot of fun, that movie. I'd as I say, I'd done a couple of television things and a little made-for-TV movie, but that is the first big studio film I had a part in.
Well, you knocked it out of the park on that one.
Well, thank you.
And you were going up against John Travolta, so there was a lot of power on that screen.
Well, John was very helpful to me, and anytime he'd have a little suggestion about how I should play something or something, I'd listen to him because by that time he was a pretty seasoned performer. I'd done a lot of stuff on stage, but not on film.
Well, talk to me about your stage stuff, because you've written some things too that you performed.
Yeah.
And some of them were pretty big.
Well, I got one. Actually, it's 2 one-act plays that put together, published by Samuel French. So I got one published play, which has been done quite a bit, over.
Well, tell them what it is so they can look it up.
It's called the collected title it's called Throckmorton, Texas, and then it gives the zip code for Throckmorton.
Okay.
And the first play takes place in a little diner, the Whiz Bang Cafe, and the second one takes place in a motel in the same town called the Easy Snooze Motel. Easy,
Like it. I like it.
It had been called the Bates Motel until Psycho came out. And the man's mother, the man who owns it, a man named Wendell Bates, his mother had sued Alfred Hitchcock and all the studios and everybody because he'd ruined her business when he came out with that movie.
I imagine so.
So it's kind of a flop house, you know. It was the guy that owns it doesn't do anything with it. He just sits at the desk and drinks whiskey and listens to.
I can see where that might lend itself to a nice little.
Yeah, and he listens to classical music, and we've got the disc jockey in there saying, "And now a piece from Johann Sebastian Bach." So that's the kind of town it is.
That's awesome. What about Charles Goodnight's Last Night?
Yeah, that's a play that I used to do. I played Charlie Goodnight, who was the prototype for Captain Call in Lonesome Dove. Charlie Goodnight and Oliver Loving opened a trail out west, going up through Fort Sumner and up to Denver, where they could ship cattle up there, or drive cattle up there. And Oliver Loving, as not like the Lonesome Dove, but Oliver Loving was actually about 25 years older than Charlie Goodnight. And when he was shot and got gangrene in the leg, he was in his mid-50s, and Charlie Goodnight was about 30. So it was. But also Charlie Goodnight did a lot of other things. He established the J.A. Ranch. He was one of them in the party that rescued Cynthia Ann Parker from the Comanches. It kidnapped her from the Comanches, really. She never could figure out the way to live as a white person. And finally she, after her daughter didn't thrive and she died, and shortly after that, Cynthia Ann died. But it was the whole situation there between the whites and the Indians was just a tragic thing.
Yeah, it was.
When the Europeans came to this country, they assumed that these were just nomadic savages. Well, they had very complex governments. The tribes did. They had agriculture. They had spiritual life. They had medicine. They had everything that the Europeans had, but they dressed funny, and they were dark-skinned, which was another thing. Back in those days, the darker you were, the lower you were on the totem pole.
That's true.
Anyway, that's. I don't want to get too far into that because we'll all cry.
Oh yeah. And then there was it Buffalo Altar, a Texas Symphony?
Yeah, that was a guy named Stephen Harrigan wrote the words to it, and Todd, and his name slips me right now, wrote the music. And it's written for a symphony orchestra. And first time we performed it was down in Houston in a parlor in a house with a whole orchestra behind me. And we recorded it. And I don't know what's happened to that recording, but it was that's the only time we did it with a full orchestra. After that, we did it with a piano and some sound effects, you know. But it's a remarkable piece of work.
Sounds like it.
Just the story is great. It's about an old oil landman who he's reminiscing about when he was young and how things were a little different. And he went out to talk to an old rancher, and the old man says, "Yeah, you can drill for oil anywhere except this place right here." And he said, "Well, that was a problem because that was the place we were going to drill." And he said, "Well, why is that, sir? That's the place we wanted to drill." And he said, "No, you can't drill there. It's a holy place." He said, "Spend the night here. Spend the night with me, and we'll leave before dawn in the morning, and I'll take you out there and show you why." So he takes him out there and goes on, talks about other things, but then he takes him out to a hill above a valley, and they ride horseback out there. The old man takes him off his horse, and they climb up to a cave. Inside this cave, there's an old bison skull, but it's not like any of them that you'd seen. Now it's got long horns on it, and it's prehistoric looking. And it's set up on a pile of bones. And he said when the sun came up, it came up slowly, and then a ray of light went across the valley and landed into that cave and lit it up. And he realized that was an altar. And he said that man who built that altar was not too different from any of us. We're all Texans. And he said we've got to preserve what he built. So they didn't drill.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, now, have you actually done any of the rodeos? Have you actually ridden in any of them?
And some of those put together things, you know.
The celebrity ones?
You know, the celebrity ones, but also when I was a kid, I tried to ride a bull once, and I realized once I got on there, bull, it's like I'd ridden bucking horses. Well, this is a whole different deal. I got down there and I looked down and I saw that hump and those big horns, and I thought, and I felt it's like I was on a train engine, and I could feel the malevolence in that thing. I mean, he didn't want to buck me off. He wanted to kill me. So I started taking a rap, and I looked up, going to say, "Just get me out of here. I'm not going to do this." Well, they thought I nodded, and they opened the gate.
Oh, no.
That thing come out of there. His feet were 6 feet off the ground, and he was twisting like an eel. I started unwrapping while he was in the air. As soon as he hit the ground, I rolled off of him and ran like hell for the fence.
Smart man.
That's the last time I tried that.
You smart man.
Yeah.
Those people are crazy.
Well, I don't know how you practice it.
No, I don't either. I honestly don't either. Well, one last thing I want to talk to you about. is the NAAF, the National Alopecia Areata Foundation?
Well, that's this. I don't shave this anymore. I don't do anything. There's not any hair. Every once in a while, a long hair will pop out about that long. And I won't see it till it's about that long, and then I'll shave it off. But otherwise, I don't have any. My beard is sparse in here, and I don't have any hair on my body. So that's what alopecia is. You lose your hair in big chunks. Well, for an old man, it's not too bad. But for a young 13-year-old girl, or 14 or 15, you know, they're very vulnerable anyway. And when they lose their hair and their eyebrows, you know, that's a tragedy to them. Now, some men are vain like that. It didn't bother me that I didn't have any hair. My hair doesn't do anything. Yeah, you've got the same deal. And but so once I lost my hair, I started getting my people weren't calling me. And I heard that people would talk to my manager and my daughter and anybody that they could talk to, and saying that I must be under treatment for cancer. And of course, that scared everybody off. So I called the Alopecia Foundation. I said, "Do you need a spokesman? Because it'll do me a great deal of good to get this out in the public, and I think I can do your organization some good, because there's a lot of actors who have this, but they don't go public with it. They get wigs and they do this and that and the other thing. Well, I tried that. I don't like a wig on. And so I went out and went to their conventions and talked to them, and I said, there's nothing wrong with losing your hair. And the reason you're doing it is because your immune system doesn't have anything to do. Because all of us who've lost our hair like this are the healthiest people in the world. Our immune systems are bored, and they go after the hair follicles. So that's why you lost your hair, because you're too healthy. And it kind of cheered some of those kids up, I mean, a lot of them wore wigs, bad-looking wigs. And after they started thinking along those lines, they just started wearing a scarf on their head. And that was an improvement in their view, So I did that I made a little documentary about a boy. I was teaching a boy how to ride a horse. So he'd forget about his hair, he'd ride this horse. And so I had my son, who was a documentary filmmaker, come out and film it. And he told me while we were filming that he was going to join the Army, the paratroopers. Because that was right after 9/11, right after they flew those planes into all those buildings and things. And I said, well, you've got to do what you've got to do. I'd rather you wouldn't join right now, but if you got it. He said, well, he had 2 kids at that time. He said, I got 2 kids and my wife, and they need insurance, and I don't have any insurance in my, with my documentary. I'm making a living, but just barely. He said, so I want to make it good on them, and then when I get out, we'll have, we'll have the GI Bill and all that stuff. So he did. He joined the paratroopers, 30 years old, and he shouldn't have been jumping out of planes at that age, especially carrying a backpack and a rifle and a tripod and a camera. But he did it. A lot of the footage you saw on the news was some stuff that he took. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, how can people reach out to that foundation to support it? Do you know?
You go online and look for Alopecia Areata Foundation.
Okay.
And you can find it that way. That's the way I found it, I think.
There you go. Is there anything that you want to promote? I know you've got a bunch of things you can't promote right now because of the fact that...
I can't promote any movies that currently are out or are about to come out. I've got some of those, and I can't really do any promotion of those, but I can say that I've got a granddaughter and a nephew who are autistic, and if you can do anything at all to help to fund the research into autism. There are several foundations to do this, and just take your pick and give them a little money if you got some laying around. But
that's awesome.
Other than that, no, I don't have anything to promote.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.